I would like to call to order the Winthrop School Committee meeting on Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 6 p.m. We are meeting in the Harvey Hearing Room, Town Hall, 1 Metcalf Square. May I have the roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri? Mr. Matucci?
Yep.
Ms. Petrie? Here. Ms. Swope? Here. Ms. Barry? Ms. Powell?
Here. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Swope, can you lead us? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we have, do we have any public comment?
No.
Yeah.
Sure to listen.
Okay, we do have a visitor this evening, our new principal for the William P. Gorman Fort Bank School, Mark McEnany. You want to come up and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Good evening.
Good evening.
Mark McEnany, new principal at the fort. Really happy to be here tonight. Thanks for your invitation.
Thank you so much for coming. We wanted to get to know you a little bit. The committee members haven't had a chance to meet you, and we also would like to hear a little bit about what you've got going as we are getting ready to open the schools.
Yeah, so this week is the busiest week of our school year. These next 2 days are, straight out. Teachers are entered the building today. We had all of our staff and everyone in their classrooms. We had a couple of general meetings. We have our special education department looking at caseloads for the year. We have specialists starting to plan our outlook as far as our work around our core values and our SMART goals and everything we have at the fort. Been spending a lot of hours at the fort hiring. We're one staff short of being at capacity with our ESP staff and everything. Usually I've hired people over the past 18 years on September 1st, and I have no concerns at this time as far as us being ready to go Wednesday. So yeah, Wednesday, the infamous loop, we are, ready to tackle that, and it's a really great opportunity to look at systems and structures at the fort. Once those are all in place and the communication is clear, we're going to be ready to go. I've seen the loop in action, but I haven't lived it yet. So it'll be a messy couple first days, but once we all get back on track and everything, we're going to be okay. So I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's going to be a really great year.
I think, Mark, if you could just tell them about some of the things that you've done with staff over the summer, so that they have an understanding of the commitment that you made to listening and learning from the staff members. I think that was super important, and you probably didn't forget about it, but it's part of your natural being, so sometimes people don't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came on scene, I invited every staff member, an open invitation to come and meet with me over the summer, and just a testament to the dedication and commitment of all of the staff at the fort. We have 111 staff. I had over 70 staff come to see me, and I've met with them over the summer just for an informal meet and greet, meet them, put names with faces, and get to know who they are, just a little bit about me, give them opportunities to ask me questions. And so my whole summer has been spent with a revolving door of staff. It was really a great opportunity to meet everyone. 90% of my staff born and raised in Winthrop. I have since relocated to Winthrop. I moved here in June of this past summer. Live right up the street, and close. I'm a big community leader. I like to be available. I like to be visible. I spent most of the summer just riding around on my bike, going into businesses, introducing myself to independent owners, everything. Rich Honan was one of the individuals that has really struck a chord with me, and really, really nice to meet him. I'm a veteran myself, so understanding what he does for the district and everything is really special. So it's been a really busy summer, and I've been at the fort and don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon.
Yes.
Well, it's nice to see you again. I met you when you interviewed.
Yes,
I was
yes.
very impressed.
You and I
with
sat
your-
right next to each other, I
I
remember.
know.
Yes.
I was very impressed with your work, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
And as you have full support, I know, of all of us, and it's gonna, I'm hoping it's gonna be a great year for you. And I'm sure the kids will benefit from your experience. I was very impressed with your experience. And after talking also to Lisa, the way in which you approach issues, I thought it was great. So, congratulations, and thanks for spending all the summer doing all that hard work.
Excellent.
Because it
Thank
is
you. Thanks so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Just best of luck, push it under the bed, I think you'd be fine, you'd do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you want, oh, yes.
Oh, I actually just wanted to pay you a compliment and thank you, Suzanne Leonard. I met you in the cafeteria when you did
Mhm.
the parent
Yes.
meet and greet. And
Yes.
my daughter is about to start the Cumming School this week, actually, but I think we're still on your newsletter list. So I just wanted to compliment you on the newsletter that you sent out about, all the new teachers and all the dates. And it was so reassuring to just sort of have that line of communication open with parents. And so putting on my parent hat for a moment, it was really great to see that. So
Thank
I
you for the
think that's-
feedback. I'm a believer is you can't over-communicate.
Yes, thank you. So I think that was a really great way to start off with parents in particular. So thanks for that.
Great, thank you.
Along those lines, my question was, what do you want parents to know as we are getting ready to open?
I want families to know that we're partners in their children's, short academic careers right now. I mean, being K through 2. That we, will work together to meet the needs of our children with the same vision and goals that we carry as a district and as a school. Want them to know that I'm approachable. I'm the first one to listen to feedback and to adjust my practice if needed. I feel, I approach my communication, my relationships with my community is, there are times where you have to be firm but diplomatic at the same time. I think clear direction and decisive direction is most important when leading a community as such. And, I'm a very approachable individual, very approachable administrator. If you ever want to come in, I always like to extend an invitation to the school committee to come and, have a cup of coffee with me. I'm in my office between 6 and 6:15 every day. It's really important, I feel, for school committee members to, set foot inside our buildings when we're making, $1 million decisions here. And it is really important for you to see any space issues that we may have, or staffing, or just to look at our programming. Or come in work the loop for a day.
Yeah, that's a nice invitation. Wear a raincoat, maybe a snorkel.
Right.
Or we have a closet in our office that's all rain gear. I'm like, okay, all right.
Hopefully you won't need that too much.
No,
Well, thank you very much for coming in. We look forward to hearing more from you as the school year moves on.
thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
And just one more thing, I was in the building this morning, walking around just doing my room, which is a little different than the group room. And staff seemed excited. There's a lot of changes that have gone on in that building. So we have a new principal, we will soon have a new assistant principal. We have a new secretary, and we only really have one secretary and sort of half of another position there. We have a new special education chairperson in that building. So that's a lot of change for the staff that has been there, many staff members for a long time. I do think the communication over the summer made a world of difference for staff, because they were going to have that opportunity to come in and just see somebody, talk to somebody, see if they fit, what they think of as a principal and as a building leader. I do think it took a lot of the anxiety away from our staff members, because they did have that opportunity. If you could think about sitting home for 2 months and taking care of kids, and then all of a sudden you go back to school and you have all these new people, and the anxiety of what's going to happen next, what's going to be expected of me. We've talked a lot about when we walk into new situations and come back, just as when I came back, the listening piece in the first year. Certainly you have to change things that are causing issues that we need to fix immediately. But the listening and learning from your staff allows for that stakeholder input in the changes, which makes the changes a lot easier when people have stake in the game. And so I think that was critical for the staff, and I heard that this morning when I was walking around, that they did appreciate that and that they feel comfortable. You know, it takes time. It takes time to make relationships with people and build trust, but I think we are ahead of the game. And I'm grateful for that. Mark has sat in on our summer leadership meetings. He knows the administrative team. Most people know how I like to have team members. I love healthy debate, discussion, and conversations. But leading together is key. And the consensus of the leadership team is that Mark fits in just right. So I think that's important to know as well. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
You're free to stay up.
May I have,
Still need to eat lunch.
okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 7th, 2023?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or negative? No. Motion passes. May I have a motion to approve warrant SBW 24-2 in the amount of $375,519.99?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Petrie, second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion for payroll warrant SPW 24-04 in the amount of $277,069.69?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Petrie, second by Ms. Leonard. Any discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Abstain.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. We have no budget transfers tonight. Buildings and grounds, may I have a motion for the Commonwealth Clinical Services Winthrop Community Health Forum use of the facilities?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Petrie, second by Ms. Leonard. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions or opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I'm going to roll these two in together. The Gorman Fort Banks PTO Ice Cream Social and the Gorman Fort Banks PTO meeting dates. May I have a motion to approve
Motion.
those?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Ranchucci, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. The WHS Parent Teacher Club meeting dates. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion? Hearing none, may I have, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Winthrop Youth Football, the football games. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. We have no subcommittee reports tonight. Do we have this?
I just want to
Oh.
mention that, well, we did have a meeting with the administrative unit in teacher negotiations. They are going to take back a proposal to their unit. And then if that passes, then it will come to the school committee.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update. Superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. I feel like I could take 5 meetings after today to bring you up to speed on everything that has been going on since our last meeting, but sort of condensed it down quite a bit to sort of the most important things that we're facing right now. So I'm proud to say that today was the first day that all of our teachers were back on site. They had a full day, and I'll get into that a little bit more, professional development, but today was the first day back. We have, over the summer, as early as today, successfully onboarded 39 new staff members to the Winthrop Public Schools. If you may recall from last year, I talked about a new onboarding system that is web-based, where when we hire staff, we now have all staff applications and a process in the cloud, which will prevent us from losing information in the upstairs where all of the staff folders are held, which is an old safe, which you can barely move in because it has 10 years worth of records in it. So piloting that program, it expedites the process for us. So no more, we're gonna send you an application, you have to fill it out. Time is of the essence in hiring folks. So it also, like I said, houses all of our new paperwork and puts it through a checking system. So once it's in, you get a ping that the person has completed that work, then it goes on to the next person in the central office, then it will go off to retirement, town retirement, or MTRS retirement. So it really has expedited the process and not left people hanging for 2 or 3 days, wondering where their paperwork is or when their courier is going to come through. So we hired 21 teachers, and that's teachers and ancillary service providers, people in the union such as speech language pathologists, OTs, ML teachers, 13 ESPs, 2 secretaries, and 3 admin, and that would be a principal and 2 CETs as the admin. We still have openings, and I'm sure people want to hear about those. As much as we try and post on Indeed, put out on Facebook, and put on School Spring, as well as contacting various colleges, we still have the need for crossing guards. We have only been able to retain 1 crossing guard. I actually had a meeting with the school resource officer that I'll talk about in a few minutes, trying to strategize about some of the spots that we think are hot spots, and seeing, again, facing the same discussion we face every year, how we can help with that. We have a few cafeteria kitchen positions open, and those are posted. We have at the Wilmingport Banks, we still have a few needs. The AP position is still open. That closes on September 1st, and we hope to move somebody into that position immediately once it closes, giving everybody the opportunity to apply. Mark will review those applications, I'm sure, as soon as they come through, and make a decision and a recommendation over to me, and then we'll move forward on that. A .5 custodian we just had resign, so that's a half-time custodian position that's funded through ESSER 3. We have put that out and have gotten some good hits from Indeed, so we'll have to fill that position soon. And we also need a one-to-one nurse who can be an RN or an LPN. We have reached out again through all of our typical venues and are now looking through some agencies to see if we can get that as a one-to-one nurse for a student who requires maintenance of a tracheotomy. At the Arthur T. Cummings School, we have a need still for 2 moderate special needs teachers, 1 ML teacher, and 1 special ed administrator. So the CET for the Cummings School gave notice a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, probably 2 weeks ago now. She has taken a position about 3 minutes from her house, and her children range in age from 5 to 1. So she took that opportunity. Right now we have Miss Nancy DeGregorio, who helped us out last year, filling in for her. And I have the other CETs from the other buildings kicking in until we can fill that position. At the middle school, due to a resignation this week, we have 1 ESP position still open. And at the high school, we still have the position of the therapeutic classroom, the special education teacher for that therapeutic classroom. We still have open a health and PE teacher position and 2 ESP positions. I was on the commissioner's group meeting with all the superintendents in the Commonwealth last Friday, and the reigning theme amongst several districts is the difficulty in hiring teachers at this point in time, special ed being one of them. But what was very interesting was the health and PE teacher hiring seems to be a struggle. I would say 5 years ago, you couldn't find a health or PE position if you wanted to. You couldn't, there just were no openings. So Matt Crombie is working on that, trying to retain somebody. I did not speak with him this afternoon, but I do know he had a candidate that he was interviewing, so I'm sure he would let me know. So today, the teachers participated in the first day of orientation for them back in the buildings, and then tomorrow they have another full day. During today, the full staff meeting, they, again, like Mark said, got a lot of classroom setup done which many of our teachers are here over the summer. We received lots of good merch from the PTOs, dropped off bags worth of classroom supplies, and we thank them for that. We had two children in our school, Gabby and her brother Jojo Shea, who did a school supply rate fundraiser on their own and then donated those supplies. So I saw Gabby and her mom today when I was at the fort dropping off some needed supplies for our students. So we keep those types of supplies in the central office. They drop them off at each school, which is great. So extra backpacks, extra notebooks, pencils, crayons, pencil boxes, things like that. So we're very grateful for their work. And this is probably, I want to say it's at least the 5th year that the Shea kids have done that, that I can remember. So it's a great opportunity for them. We had our new teacher orientation last week. It was a one-day orientation versus the past years where we've had 2 days. We believed we could condense it down to one. During that time, the new teachers came in, the whole administration went over and met with all of the new teachers at the high school, in the library, media center, and introduced ourselves. They all introduced each other, and then they had a full day of orientation with their mentors. So meeting as a group and then breaking off with their individual mentors, going through a whole host of things that one would need to go through when you start in a new school district, getting all of their technology squared away, making sure they have their laptops, their passwords, all their platforms for their classrooms are set up and integrated, checking in on all of that, getting their pictures taken for their badges and their fobs so that they can get into the school, and really just getting acclimated with the school itself, but also with their new group of teachers. So they will continue as a new group of teachers, meeting with their mentors. Even if they were mentored in a school district prior to coming here, we require at least 1 year. Even if you were 5 years in another school district, we would like you to participate in our program, and it's mandatory for at least 1 year. So they meet monthly, and they have a whole agenda every month that they have to go through, and then Laurie and I receive the reports on that to make sure that people are keeping up, teaching them about evaluation and how does evaluation work here, which is one of a new goal for us this year, district-wide, is to really hone in on the evaluation tool and SMART goals, and making sure that we're all staying on track with our goals and that they meet our strategic plan. So that was a busy but well-attended day. We have a full staff meeting tomorrow at 7:30 at the middle high school in the Neil Shapiro Theater, and that's every member of the staff will show up at 7:30. We haven't done this for a couple of years because of COVID, and then last year wanting to maximize the amount of time teachers had in their buildings after being out of the buildings for so long, and just really coming back and getting acclimated. So this year we're going to go back to doing that. All the staff will have new photo IDs this year. We have a new photography company taking school pictures called O'Connor Studios. They're based out of Saugus, Mass, and have been in business for many, many years. And each year you revisit who's doing your school pictures. For a while we had 2 or 3 different groups doing school pictures, one in one building, one in another. Very confusing for me. And we wanted to go with a company, one that would give us a good deal, but 2, had a real understanding of the needs of kids nowadays, the needs of kids. How many kids do you have? How is the picture process going to go? We met with their staff to make sure their staff was engaging and understanding of our students, and they offered us a better deal. So we're happy about that all teachers will get a brand new fob, picture ID updated. They'll also be able to immediately upload the current pictures of our students to the school's website, which makes a big difference. We've struggled. And when the police or the fire need a picture of a student, we want it to be in the moment, the day they came through the door. So we're excited about that. They will meet at the auditorium for about an hour and a half with myself and the rest of the administration, sort of welcoming them back. We embarrass all the new teachers by making them all stand and wave and stay standing until everybody, it's going to be a long list, so we'll be doing some standing. And then we go through the exercise of recognizing our teachers who have been here for increments of time. So our 5-year staff members, 10-year, 15, and we get all the way to the motherland which is where I am next year, which is the 35-year pen. So you go from getting pins to when you hit 30 years of service in the district, you get a pen. And then 35, I'd like a house, but I think I'm going to get a pen, it's a different color next year. So we're excited to do that. There's anxiety around that, which is interesting, so being mindful, because we're all practicing mindfulness. We have reached out to the staff members so that they know that they are receiving their 15, 20, 25, 30-year pin and pen. I have asked them if they will just at least stand, but they don't have to come up and take the pin in front of everybody if they don't want to. I have yet to get somebody this year to say they don't want to do that. So unless somebody tells me right prior to my announcing, then we'll have everyone come up and be acknowledged by the staff. Let's see. So, I included in your packet the Winthrop Public Schools and the Winthrop Police Department SRO MOA, so it's the School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding in your packet. I don't know that I've provided that before, sort of an exercise for me that we go through every year. It's a requirement by the Department of Education that if you have a school resource officer in your building, you have to follow a certain standard, and it's a standard that is agreed upon by the Mass Police Department as well as Massachusetts Department of Education. So I included that in there. Terry Delahanty and I have worked on the school resource officer position for a long time. I believe it was in place prior to my coming back in 2017. And as a school resource officer, so we have one school resource officer who is primarily housed at the middle school and high school. He does, however, have responsibility for the entire school. He does go over to the other school buildings, as do other police officers in town, just doing walkthroughs and making connections with students. I think it's a valuable resource for our students, our staff and our families at all grade levels for a bunch of reasons, but one is to assist in sort of maintaining that positive school climate for all students, families, and our staff. Also enhancing a cultural understanding between students and law enforcement, that they're not always in trouble when you see a police officer, that they can actually be helpful and supportive to you. And it definitely facilitates appropriate information sharing between the school department and the police department, and the word appropriate is highlighted and bolded in capitals. And it also, in having that collaborative relationship with the police department, builds more relationships between the school district across the whole community. Our police department does a lot of community events, and they know the kids that are coming to the community events because of their presence in our school. Right now, and for the past 2 years, I believe it's been Rob Carter, and it used to be Dawn Armstead. Prior to that, when I first got back here, it was Dawn Armstead. That position is funded through a grant co-written between Terry Delahanty and myself, and we are super appreciative of that. I also put in your packet, which is an example of sort of the collaborative work between the school department and the police department, a flyer that's titled "Responding and to investigating bomb threats and swatting hoaxes." So if you remember last year, if you watch TV at all, you see that there are multiple swatting incidences that go on, some of which are tied to bomb threats. So the swatting incident is a robocall or some type of communication with the school that an event is going to happen. So our principals and myself and Lori participated in that training. It was a virtual training. Definitely was a little nerve-wracking. I think it was geared primarily towards law enforcement, but it was definitely helpful for our staff. And I'm going to be doing follow-up with Terry Delahanty to sit and do some Q&A with the principals, sort of debriefing that process. The police department had given us last year and the year before, when the swatting hoaxes really took off, sort of a protocol to follow through. We have some significant ability to contact the police department here in Winthrop, circumventing the 911 system. Can't go into detail about it, but I can tell you that it exists. Our staff and administrative staff and secretaries are aware of how that works. We also all have a communication radio system that is tied to the police department, and police officers can answer it on the press of a button. I just can't go into details about those either, but I do think that that was a good example of sort of that collaboration when something comes up. This was done through the FBI, that we get notice of that and are able to take advantage of it at no cost to the district. I also included, just for your reading pleasure, Tara Bowie is our nurse leader. Tara spends a lot of time in the summer taking phone calls from our multiple summer programs. So all of our buildings this summer were filled with students during the summer for our different summer programs in each building. So if you walked through the buildings and you walked into a hallway that looked like a disaster area, it's because our custodial staff had to really map out what rooms they were going to clean in a very sequential manner because we had so many kids in the buildings. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And today when we went into the schools, with the exception of a few little spots that they still needed to work on, we'll have up and ready for Wednesday, things looked very nice. And I was in all 4 buildings today. So Tara put together this PPT and sent it out to staff. And she did it sort of, again, to alleviate concerns and fear of, kids coming back. And obviously there's been an uptick in COVID cases for people traveling and whatever the other reason one would have COVID. But Tara sent that out to all the staff just to kind of give them a sense of this is what we're doing now. Nothing has changed in terms of any COVID-related response from the Department of Education. And on my commissioners meeting last week, they are very clear that they are not planning to send out anything to the schools in terms of a change in regulation until there's more information from CDC, but they are not anticipating any changes at this point. So we thank Tara for doing that. That's just an example of something that Tara does quite often. If there is a health-related issue or concern within the school, she will absolutely do a mass mailing to all staff so that they are aware. Some folks may not ask, but it may be causing some anxiety for them. So let's talk about enrollment. So reestablished residency has been going on all summer. Grades 3, 6, and 9 families have to reestablish their residency by coming up with proof of identification of where they live so that we can be assured that the students are still living in Winthrop. We had a much higher success rate of getting families in. Of course, most people wait till the day after the deadline, so they wait till the deadline and then they come in. We notify them weekly, which is very annoying. I'm fully aware of that. To come up and do that. Some parents get a little aggravated that they're getting an email and they've already done it. I put in the email, if you have already re-established residency, please email this email. And so as of the deadline, which was the 16th, I believe, we were still struggling at the high school with 9th graders reestablishing residency, and a handful of kids at the middle school in grade 6, and a little bit larger of a handful in grade 3. We sent reminder notices out to parents that in order for their children to be actively registered and attending, that they needed to complete that process. I will know by tomorrow morning if all the people on the list that had not completed their registration have done so, and if not, we'll call those parents individually, give them the opportunity. It could be an extenuating circumstance that someone couldn't get here, and we're more than willing to flex on that and be able to, look at something different, another way for them to get that information into us. So overall enrollment, as of today, and I do again, we still have some reestablished residency students to put into the queue. We have 1,952 students. I believe that number will crawl up a bit during the month of September. Oftentimes we get a spike in kindergarten registration in September. All of a sudden, Labor Day comes around and people say, oh, I have to register for kindergarten. We also have students that can't establish residency somewhere else that may barely live in Winthrop and have to establish residency here. We also have students that have perhaps decided to go to the vote or to St. Mary's, get there and say, this is not quite what I wanted, and then come back. So I do believe that number will rise. Just at the pre-K to 2 level, we have 483 students, the largest group being 2nd grade, and I can provide folks with a copy of this if you'd like to see the actual numbers. But 2nd grade is the largest group right now, with 154 students in it. Cummings School has 451 students in total, with the largest class being the fourth grade, with 158 students in the fourth grade. The middle school has a total of 418 students. The largest class is seventh grade, 160. It's a really big class compared to 127 in Brady. So you have these bumps, and those are, for us, that's not a surprise because we watch it every year, so we can anticipate how many students are moving. And at the high school, in grades 9 through 12, 584 students, largest class being the 11th grade with 159, and the senior class currently sits at 140. So out of district placements, if you're doing the math, you know 16 short of the number I gave you. So we have 16 students designated as out of district students attending either private special education day schools or collaborative schools in the district. International students, we will have, I had 15 this week, but I believe we have more students than that. And again, we look at class size when we're deciding if we're going to take an international student. And so we're not over subscribing to that program, and we're allowed to say we can't take somebody. So Matt Crombie and Kathleen D'Amico, who's the guidance counselor at high school, watch that process very closely. But I will have an exact amount with an income or a revenue number for you at the next meeting, which I think is important. The money that comes in from the international students goes into a revolving line, and we actually utilize that money to pay for staff at the high school. So I think that's an important note. An update on policy, if you recall from a year ago, which might be hard, we had the meeting where we talked about having Mass Association of School Committees work with us to take our policy book, which is this thick, and go through the process of looking at every single policy we have and making sure that the policies are in line with the state and federal laws, because those change often. We wanted to make sure that we had the exact language and verbiage that needed to be there. And then also looking at the policies to help us determine over the years what has been put into that policy book that's truly policy, or if it's not policy and it's procedural, what should we do with that? And so I am happy to say that we have completed that process as of the last week in August. Laurie and I met with Dorothy Pressa, who is a guru at MASC, and went through every single policy that the school district had. There are, when you go through each policy, MASC makes recommendations about that policy. They may say add some verbiage, cite some federal law, or remove that policy because it's actually procedure, and then cross-reference it to see if it's in the handbook. They also recommended some policies that we didn't have, which was my biggest fear, that we were missing a policy. And so those recommendations also came out of this. So we took it by section, so it's A through N, I believe. And some sections are this thick, and some sections are 2 or 3 pages. So the process that we went through now morphs into another process, where I will be setting up policy subcommittee meetings and taking the policies by batch. So if A and B are large, we may do those two together, or do A alone and then do B and some other smaller groups. I'll sit with the policy subcommittee, Laurie and myself, and we will outline every one that we've gone through and show you the track changes so that you can see exactly what was changed and why, and if nothing has been changed. Each one of those, after we do each group, so I'm anticipating probably 8 or 9 policy subcommittee meetings. Once we complete a batch, or section A, for example, with the subcommittee, hopefully, and at our recommendation, will then bring that batch back with a recommendation to the school committee. And the school committee should take that batch the week of a school committee meeting and have the next week or 2 to review it, be able to look at it, have questions about it, and then be ready to vote that batch in a subsequent school committee meeting. So it's going to take us a while to get through them all. I think it's important that you get them in your school committee packet and be able to take them home and digest them, as opposed to giving them to you on a Thursday and asking you to vote on them on Monday. It gives you a little bit of extra time. Some of them will be very easy. There will be others that you will have questions about. if then the school committee at the meeting, we vote a batch, can vote the batch as a group. So you're used to reading a policy 3 times. You no longer have to do that if you've gone through this process and if you follow the subcommittee to the school committee step-by-step process. So it may take us, the school year to approve every one of them, or we may be able to do it faster. And then at the end, once all of them have been approved, there'll be a school committee meeting where you'll take them as a whole with a new policy manual for the school district. The most beautiful thing about this whole thing and all the work is we committed to having this now go online with Mass Association of School Committees. There are about 90 schools in the Commonwealth that have taken on this process within the last 5 years, and the feedback has been amazing because it opens up the transparency door for families, for staff, for a community member to be able to log on to MASC and look at a policy. For me, it allows me not to have to get up out of my chair, go to Patty's desk and thumb through a book this thick that has stains on pieces of paper, and it will actually all be current. Because sometimes when you change policies, if you forget to put a date on the bottom and you put it in the new book, you're not really sure when it became a policy, when it was revised. This makes everything current. As we adjust policies moving forward in the coming years, there's a portal that the secretary to the superintendent would have that if the school committee approves the change of the new policy after we get our originally approved book up and running on the website, it's a matter of that person just sending that change, and then at MASC they go in and put it in the portal, and then it becomes updated. So it was a lot of work, but it was eye-opening, and it was less concerning than I thought. So I gave myself all this anxiety and, was nervous about things that we were missing. I'm happy to say we were in pretty good shape. There were sections that we were right in line with MASC, and there were some that we were missing, and some where we were overdoing it and had procedure in there versus policy. So more to come on that as we set up some committee meetings. Under safety and security on my list, all the inspections by the fire and police have been completed. It's not something you have to do every year, it's something we do every year. It's required every 3, we do it every year. The police department, fire department, DPW, and building inspector go through every school, every classroom, touch every door, look at every bit of the school, and they make some pretty good recommendations. They tell us what we're doing well, what we need to improve, and then they identify things that are critical and need to change. We just got all 4 drafts at the middle of last week, and now the work starts. So the principals, of course, take them and read them right away and start making the changes immediately in the schools. But we meet as a group to go through them with each principal. So Laurie, myself, Mikkel Filipko, who's the facilities manager, and start to create the list that we have to now check off. We're not required to report it back to the police and fire department, but we do. It enables them when they come out not to have to hunt and peck to see if we did what we did, and we give them updates. I will present all of those reports at the next school committee meeting so that you can see them. We have the draft, so we have to run through it just to make sure there's no errors in it. When they're doing 4 school buildings, sometimes middle school appears in the I'm not dating myself, the Roman Forte, so we'll run through those and get any changes back to the police chief, and then get them to the school committee with an update on where we are at with those. ALICE certification is being rolled out, as you know, still under safety and security. This is our response system. They've changed their platform in terms of how we populate our staff so that they can access the training. Today and tomorrow are big days for staff to complete all the mandatory training that we have them do as a job requirement. We have put them on something called ArcsEd, which is a professional development platform that keeps track of every required mandated training on a portal that we can access to ensure that everybody completes it. And also, if you don't complete it, we can send you an email saying you have 24 hours to complete this. It's also a good tool when we're asked for by the Department of Education to tell us how many people, did the people do the ethics training? Are you sure that everybody did it? So we're not hunting for pieces of paper. because it all populates to the portal. So this morning by 6:30, I had the Alice website up and running for new staff, as well as all of our old staff that have been here. So anyone who was Alice certified last year has to recertify this year, which is less intense. It's about an hour and a half for the actual Alice training, but if you're recertifying, it's about 45 minutes. So staff is happy about that. Happy to share the Alice training with anyone on the school committee. If you shoot me an email, I can put your name in there in the queue so that you can take the Alice training as well. It's a very interesting training, but it is a bit nerve-wracking as you're going through it, because it gives actual scenarios for staff. So just a little update that that's going on. Mandatory fire drills are being scheduled. We report those to the state fire department in timely fashion, however many we have to do. I believe it's 4 per school year. We have to report the weather that day, number of students, time we got in and out of the building. So those are being scheduled. Buildings and grounds, custodial staff I've talked about did an amazing job getting the schools ready. Certainly working with the police, fire, and inspection crew from the town, making sure that we were in order. Still a little bit of work to be done. The landscaping around the school district, we were short-staffed this summer. However, they still did an excellent job. The town had, and Mr. Lettieri can correct me if I'm speaking about this incorrectly, but the town had provided landscaping opportunities for the middle high school. It's a huge area. And with sort of a strained staff during the summer, people like to take vacations, they're entitled to them. That was a lot of work, given that our buildings are pretty full in the summer on top of everything else. So the town had provided landscaping support, that's what I called it, and a landscaper came out and did all the grounds of the high school and other areas in the community. But for my own mental health, I got that high school, middle school looking nice. I had the opportunity to drive by it, and the bushes had been pruned and raked out, and it was really looking nice. I don't know if you want to add anything on that, Jim?
No, town stepped up and tried to help out, because there's a lot of short staff going around, and just a very busy summer. But I think they did an incredible job. They've done some other properties throughout the town. But I went down there 2 or 3 times when they were there, different days, and it's amazing the stuff that comes out of there. And you look at it quickly, and you don't think it's much, but there was an incredible amount of foliage there that needed to be pruned out, weeded out, and they did a good job. And the schools, look great inside and out. Thank you, and staff for that.
So thanks to the town and to you, Jim, for putting that on the top of the list. I just have a couple more things to go through. This school year, we talked about it last school year, not at the school committee level, but with my administrative team on putting together leadership training for student athletes. There were several episodes over the past 2 years of mishaps in school districts with student athletes and coaches and people just really not understanding how to lead, making mistakes, and coaches making mistakes and how they speak to kids making mistakes and how they speak to each other, so bullying and harassment and things of that nature. We saw a lot of that on the news this year. We actually had an incident in our school last year where one of our students was bullied to a point of an alleged hate crime, we felt. And we pursued a Title IX investigation of our own, although we weren't the host community, to protect our student. So we talked a lot last year about how we can work. We think we work very well with our coaches in the athletic arena, and giving them the training they need and the expectation, a coach's handbook with expectations, and then constant communication. We felt strongly that we needed to do more work with our student athletes on how to be a good leader and peer within your group, which morphs into everything you do in life, not just on the athletic fields, but just in life and in the classroom and in the school environment. And so Mr. Serino, and with the support of a couple of other folks, Vinnie Crossman was a key in helping. Vasily Nalios was a former student here, and he was a key in helping get this up and running. It was based off a training that they all went to through I believe it was through the MIAA at the Boston Garden 2 years ago. It's called the SALT training, and I showed you the flyer. I put the flyer in, and it looks at just creating leadership among children and students who happen to be part of a team. Again, it can morph into anything. So I was asked to come and work with them. It was a very long day for them. The students started at 1 o'clock and it went till 8:30 at night. I happened to be able to go over one and welcome the students in and talk to them a little bit. They had a bunch of different breakout sessions, and I shared that with you. Conflict resolution, brainstorming ideas together, talking about the expectations of an athlete. Mr. Crombie spoke from a principal perspective. Mr. Serino spoke from an athletic director's perspective. I spoke from a superintendent's perspective, but also spoke from the perspective of somebody who gets to see other arenas at the college level or at the superintendent level, hearing from other superintendents about what's happening in other schools. And the feedback from the students at the end, they had a couple of different speakers come in. One, it probably could be cut down, maybe put into 2 days, because it was a long day for them. But the feedback we received was that they would learn something new that they never would have thought of. Because a lot of the leadership that they're expected to have as a teammate, as a fellow student, or as a captain of a team, they know what the word is, but they really never explicitly have been taught what does that really mean and put it into context. So they felt that it was definitely beneficial to them, and they felt as though they were chosen to do it by their coaches. So they felt proud that they were chosen to do that. They felt acknowledged, as students, and they felt like they could move it forward as they went through the school year. So we were excited about that. Again, we'll tweak it for next year, looking to expand it in other areas or a similar leadership, type of program in different areas, and that will be discussed with the administration as we move through the year. The last thing I had was I put in your packet a copy of the current grants that are entitlement grants to the school district. So you saw Title 1, 2, 4, and then the special education 1, 2, 3, 4 titles, and then the special education grants in there as well. Those are the amounts of money that the school district has the ability to access by putting together a budget worksheet to show that we would like to take advantage of that entitlement. We've had many of these grants for years. My job this year is to try to teach the school committee a little bit more about what we do with those funds. So the grants are available now. We are in the process of writing those grants and the budget documents to show how we're going to spend the dollars. That gets submitted to the state, and then we get awarded the grant. This is the time frame. You think it would be done over the summer. Some of it is and some of it isn't. Titles come over the summer. Special ed grants usually come at the end of August. So it's a matter of submitting the correct paperwork. But I do think it would be important for the committee to understand how we utilize those funds, and then to be able to ask questions about those. So at the next school committee meeting, I will bring you some information about how they're spent, and I can assure you that a fair amount of it is spent on salaries of current staff members to keep us afloat. And that, I believe,
Questions?
Yes.
I have a lot, so if you
Okay,
can-
go first.
I have a question about, when I read the athletic materials, Lisa, hazing can be punished by a fine, but not bullying.
Are you in the handbook?
Yeah, I was in the handbook that you gave us.
Yeah, so the handbook, I believe, is on the agenda, right? To vote?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay,
those are,
shall I wait?
so yeah, just make sure we get to that, so
No
you can ask
question,
them for that.
okay, no problem, thank you.
Just so we stay in mouth.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for such a comprehensive report, Superintendent Howard. I am going to answer it with a I hope, somewhat comprehensive set of questions. The first is, thank you for the school resource officer memorandum. My question is twofold. One is, how often is this memorandum of agreement updated? Obviously, this is the first time I've seen it as a committee member. And question number two is, you mentioned that it was funded through a grant that was co-written by you and Terry Delahanty. And I'm just
I would say
wondering-
partnered, I've changed my term, it's a partnership grant that we have to, that is a standard grant, like an entitlement grant. So it's not, so some grants are competitive grants where you have to write your story about why you are deserving of this money. I believe this one is a non-competitive entitlement safety grant. And so the police department partners with the school to say, how can we use this safety grant money that's available to the town of Winthrop to help benefit the school? And then I have to give them my reasoning, and then they, when they get the grant, they utilize it to pay for that. So we're not funding it.
And it's assuming that it keeps renewing? Do you have to keep applying for this?
So,
or how does that-
like any other entitlement grant, if the money is available, if you don't make your statement that you would like to use the money, you would like to have access to that money and give them how you're going to use it, then you can't access it until you've been approved to use it, the reasons that we're putting out there in the grant.
But the assumption is that we'll continue in perpetuity?
It's been ongoing for at least, like I said, I've been here 6 years, it's been ongoing for at least that, because it is a resource officer in place before.
Is there, it's the salary, I assume, for the school resource officer that's covered in this,
Yes.
by this grant?
Yep, we do not pay the school resource officer, it comes out of the grant safety grant, which is managed by the police department.
And then to the question of the memorandum, how often it gets
Yeah,
updated?
I think it's every 3 years, but I'll have to check with Terry, I'm not sure.
Okay, second bucket is about the question of enrollments. I was just curious, since enrollments obviously seem to be growing, if class sizes are also growing, and I presume you probably don't have those numbers in front of you.
Right.
But I was going to ask if you wouldn't mind at the next meeting.
Sure, that's easy, yeah.
Yeah, I just would be really curious, because I feel like we're talking about increasing enrollment, and then I'm just wondering if we have some concrete data about how that might be affecting class sizes.
Absolutely, I can get you that for the next meeting.
Great, I would appreciate that. I think it's really important that we start to build a case for what what a level services budget, how it's affecting our ability to educate the students as opposed to a needs-based budget. So it seems to me that the more we can put on record I'm assuming class sizes are increasing, but I think we need to know that and we need to document that. And,
Sure. Yeah, I can have that for the next meeting.
Thank you, that would be helpful. And then third question is about the student athlete leadership training, which sounds like a really important program. I got the sense that there might be some discussion that this would be available to other students. It strikes me there are many different leadership opportunities in schools, for example, student government, or I know we have a really good drama society. So I'm just wondering if there's conversation about expanding those leadership opportunities.
Yeah, I think,
to
I mean,
others.
it definitely is something, when you see the success and how this has run, it's definitely food for thought. How can we expand this? I know in our student government, opportunities that we have sent our students off to the Cape to do their leadership training. But I want to take a look at where else does it happen, for student leadership. And certainly, you get a program like that, you can definitely tear it into a different venue pretty easily. This just happened to be one that a group of people had seen that worked for student athletes, and they felt like it would be really good to bring it here, and we can definitely jump off that in other venues. I do know we have other leadership training groups. Off the top of my head, I can't spit them out right now, but I certainly can bring that back to the next meeting, to see what other opportunities are we providing.
Yeah.
I know that at 21st Century, one of the opportunities we provided is we handpick students who speak multiple languages and offered them an opportunity to be leaders at 21st Century after school and actually be paid. But we teared it down to just students who could speak more than one language. And then Kathy Del Vento works with them, as well as Connie Grayson and the other teachers that are employed over there, working with those students to get them to understand how do I lead as a mentor in this program. So that was another good example of being able to pick a group of students that this would certainly it would benefit every student, but when you're looking at really honing in on certain subgroups of students. That was another example of a group that we felt really needed sort of a boost.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure CASA has some really good leadership.
Oh,
trainings
CASA,
too
so-
over the summer, right?
So we partner with CASA and have a partnership with them where they're actually within our schools and they're doing a lot of job alikes. Last year trying to get, just get kids involved in wanting to do job alikes or working together as a team to do multiple activities and self-esteem building. So I'm gonna put together something because I think, I have it all in my head, but it's.
Yeah, I
but
think
in
it would
a-
be really nice
yeah.
to see all the different
Sure,
opportunities
sure.
for different populations. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Do we have homeschool applications?
We have, I believe we have 6 students. So for this particular approval, we have 7 students that have applied since the last time you approved any. And we have a 9th grade student, I'm sorry, let me go back, as we have 1 3rd grade student is a new application, 1 4th grade, 2 7th grade, 1 8th grade, 1 9th grade, and 1 11th grader. And when you're ready to approve those, Laurie Galvin, who is our homeschool liaison, has gone through each one of the programs to make sure that they are accredited programs and has approved each one of those. And once you do so, I can just give you the update on how many kids per grade we have that are being homeschooled.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve all 7 applications?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion?
Are some of those re-applications, I remember there was some in June when we last voted on them.
There are, some of them are re-apps that just have to be
Do
certified.
you have to know roughly?
The total number?
Yeah.
Total number by grade?
No, if they're re-applications.
Right now, there's only 2 that are re-apped.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes.
So just as a summary, for the total of children who are homeschooled that we are aware of at this moment, in kindergarten 0, grade 1 0, grade 2 0, in grade 3 we have 2 students, grade 4 we have 2 students, grade 5 we have 2 students, grade 6 we have 1, grade 7 we have 2, grade 8 we have 1, grade 9 we have 2, grade 10 we have none, grade 11 we have 1, and grade 12 we have 0, which is less than what we had. This is less homeschooling than we had last year.
13.
There you go. I don't think I wrote that down.
On personnel, I want to address this all together because there's a lot of them, and I know that you touched on this already. If there's more updates that you want to give us.
Let me find my agenda. So, just briefly, the resignations that we have are chairperson at the Cummings, the assistant principal at the William P. Gorman, a grade 5 teacher and EL teacher, an ESP at the middle school, and a biology teacher at the high school. So those were the resignations. I don't know, you're not accepting the resignation, you just want to move it, right?
Correct.
Let me see your agenda. Sorry. And as far as retirements are concerned, we have none right now. The postings that we have are an occupational therapist, which we have since filled, so that is gone. Kitchen work, as I told you earlier, and the classroom teachers I spoke of earlier were Cummings School, elementary school teacher. That one has been filled. The BCBA district-wide has not been filled yet, and that is purposeful. Jen O'Connell and myself are in discussion about that at the moment. The interim assistant principal we talked about, I told you that is still posted until September 1. Kitchen workers at the Gorman School. Elementary special ed teachers, I told you there were 2 at the Cummings School that are still open. Multilingual teacher, which is the EL or ML teacher at the Cummings School, is still open. Again, additional kitchen workers at Middle High School, and the part-time junior custodian at the Gorman Buildings.
Okay, thank you. We also have a vote to designate the contract authority to the superintendent assistant / assistant superintendent. Before I ask for a motion on that, can you just provide us with background?
Sure, so this was something that came to my attention from the town manager through town council, not the town councilors, but the town attorney. He's just going, I believe he's going through a lot of the town procedures and policies, and this is something that came up to him and asked if the school district had the school committee approved contracts, and that's a wide term contract. So we have teachers' contracts, we have union contracts, but we also have a lot of other contracts like Xerox, also, which is our technology contract. And those contracts traditionally, my feedback to the town manager as well as the town's attorney was that in the history that I looked at, they had not traditionally been school committee approved. That it's typically done by the superintendent. So the Xerox contract comes through, we sign it off. A contract for a bus company to pick up some homeless students on a Tuesday, it's gonna be a 3-day contract, the superintendent has typically signed it. He recommended that we have the school committee, if that's the way it's been, vote to, on record, for me to continue to have that authority, and me and or another designee to continue to have that authority, because I can't find it in any record that someone voted on that at some point in time. There are some contracts that the superintendent wouldn't, so things such as the school lunch contract, typically comes back to the school committee. But those smaller contracts, or the day in and day out contracts, have always, from what I looked at, been signed by superintendent and or their designee.
Okay, can I have a motion to designate the contract authority to the superintendent and or the assistant superintendent as needed?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Martucci, second by Ms. Petrie. Any discussion?
Just a quick question, is there a dollar limit on that? Is there going to be, there's a $500,000 contract?
My question as well.
Yeah, yeah, so the RFP, you can tell me.
Okay, sorry about that. So the limit per Massachusetts Common by law is anything that we put up for RFP. So pretty much anything that wouldn't fall under MHAC and or a state bid contract that's over $250,000, we have to legally bring to you guys. Such as she said, the food service contract. If we were to amend the Balsam contract and it was to go over, things of that nature would always come to you guys.
And union contracts, so the contracts that you all have been negotiating, those you have to sign. Or they can't move forward without one, your vote, but two, it requires your final signature on those union contracts as well.
Okay. Do we want to make an amendment that this is for under 250,000 and
I don't think you'd have to make an amendment if it's under 250. I think you'd have to make an amendment if you wanted to make it 100,000 or
Okay.
50,000.
So the town, and the
so
town
the
attorney
understanding
gave
is
the
that this will
language.
be in compliance with existing state laws? Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the Winthrop HSMS athletic handbook?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Leonard. Discussion.
Just a question about the hazing versus the bullying. I was noticing that on hazing, there is a fine. There's a possible fine of up to $3,000, I think, but that's not true in bullying, right?
I'm not sure why. I know that the athletic handbook was written based on the MIAA rules, but I can look into that if you want.
Would you, because
Yeah.
it seems, I mean, both seem to be egregious to me. And then one real quick question about the summer school grade. It says that so if a student fails courses, takes the course during the summer, then that grade does not count as, so they still can't play in the fall, is that the way?
They can, so students can try out, they can practice, they can be given a uniform. However, if you fail 2 classes, you cannot play in games. Now, do understand that there are extenuating circumstances for students that I shouldn't say we, the principal and the athletic director have had to make some adjustments for. Yeah, we're seeing a little bit more of that now, with some students that are, just students that have immigrated to this country, that come in November and and don't speak the language and have, just come across the border and they're coming into school and, they don't even know the environment. And although they're in their classes and they have the support, they're struggling. That's a case where we need to make adjustments to the pool in order to keep kids engaged and continuing to allow them to play. But in terms of the money for hazing, I don't know about, but I can check into that. And then the grades, you read it there, but the summer school grade does not count. I can get clarity on why that is from Mr. Springer.
Okay, because I'm thinking if they took the course over again and they got an A or so in the summer school course, that means as I understood it from reading it, they can't still play in the fall. I wasn't.
I can double check on that.
Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. May I have a vote to approve the girls' basketball overnight request? And this would be happening in December. The team would be staying overnight in a hotel in Bourne.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Petrie,
Second.
second by Mr. Lettieri. Any discussion?
Just, chaperones, male, female, everything?
Yes.
Good.
Correct. So they will ensure that there are enough chaperones, that there are people there who understand how to use the devices we have, like an AED, that we take with us when we travel, and that students are appropriately supervised, and that there is male and female presence if it's necessary.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. We have unfinished business, the interim assistant superintendent contract, that is still in subcommittee. Public relations.
Just to wish everyone a very happy and safe back-to-school week. Maybe this isn't a question, but how do we set on crossing guards? If that was discussed earlier, I
Yeah, it was.
apologize.
So right now, so we posted it on Indeed, we reached out on Facebook, we posted on School Spring, which not too many crossing guards hanging out on School Spring. Matter of fact, not too many people are hanging out on School Spring anymore, that we've now realized. Haven't had any bites. So just for context, it's 3 hours a day, or they, crossing guard would be paid for 3 hours a day. $45 per day is what they receive for the 3 hours. We've looked at increasing that, still no bites. We haven't fully increased it, but we posted it with a salary that was at least minimum wage, if not higher, and no bites. We have one person. I had a meeting, discussion, a formal meeting with Rob Carter today about trying to strategize about what we can do for that. We actually talked about, I don't know, the heights, how there's that button that flashes and alerts people to stop? Get one of those right across the street. Those would be beautiful to have. I don't, they're not through Safe Streets grant. I've looked at it. I don't know the total cost for them, something that we certainly can pursue with Steve Callagher to see if he has any indication of what those would cost. But we're gonna keep pushing for crossing guards. Any parent out there who doesn't mind getting wet, cold, with nice jackets that we can give to staff who would be a crossing guard, please reach out to me directly, and I will get you set up.
And I just will say quickly too, that my understanding is construction on revestment will not be happening during school hours, so.
That's what we were told. Today, we reached out to see if we had to put out a memorandum of understanding, not to tell the DPW what to do, staying in my lane, but just to get a sense of whether or not I had to say, we can't hold people accountable if they're late. As we know right now, Main Street should be ready to go by Wednesday. Whether that means they're just not going to be locking off that one lane or not. But just like the weather, we can't really control the traffic or the construction.
Very good. Any other public relation? Yes.
I just want to say, I know all of you have seen Miracle, but it was the first time I saw it.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday, and
Yeah.
it was fantastic. And also, the introduction just points out the issues of the 80s, and I'm thinking, okay, we're in trouble now, but we were in trouble in the 80s, so it was just, it's a wonderful film, and I can understand why you love hockey so much after watching that film. It was great.
Best hockey movie, my girl's Yoli, Winthrop,
Mhm.
yeah, my kids have all known that since they were little.
All right,
Wonderful.
wonderful. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Swope, second by Ms. Petrie. All those, roll call?
Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Petrie? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes. Meeting adjourned.